You know, it's a great time to be a Yakuza fan. What other game franchise is getting this much love and attention from any major publisher/developer? Good Guy Sega is doing reprints, prequels, and now Yakuza Kiwami is a reimagining of the original game with the fantastic looking new engine Sega has developed for the 6th installment of Yakuza. There will also be another reimagining of the second game, so keep your eyes peeled. Now, if only we could get a physical release for Yakuza 5. Come on, Sega. Do the right thing, Sega. In the meantime, let's check out Yakuza Kiwami. Yakuza Kiwami is an overhauled version of the original game. It takes place after Yakuza 0, but you don't need to play the game to understand what's going on. Kiryu is back on the streets of Kamurocho, and he's a big deal. He's risen through the ranks with his friend Nishiki, and life is going well. Nishiki and Kiryu like to go to a local watering hole, Serena, and visit their childhood friend and mutual love interest, Yumi. Kiryu and Nishiki's boss takes a shine to Yumi and kidnaps her. Nishiki pursues and kills their boss. This complicates matters since he was the head of the Dojima family, and whoever kills him has one hell of a price to pay. Kiryu takes the fall because he's the man, and he's hauled off to prison for 10 years. Yumi goes missing after this, and Nishiki is left alone. When Kiryu gets out of the Poki, Nishiki has his own family in the Dojima clan, which was originally meant for Kiryu, and Nishiki has turned into a huge jerk. This is where Yakuza Kiwami gets very interesting. How did Nishiki go from this in Yakuza 0 to this? In the original Yakuza on the PS2, Nishiki comes off as cold-blooded towards Kiryu. Nishiki is detached from the suffering that he's caused Kiryu. He doesn't seem at all bothered that it's his fault that Kiryu lost his opportunities in life because of his mistakes. Kiwami gives some context to why that is with flashbacks that focus on Nishiki during the 10-year interim while Kiryu was in jail. Nishiki's weak, unable to protect those he loves, and disrespected by his subordinates. This leads him down a dark path of ruthlessness and violence due to his own self-loathing. I have played most of the Yakuza games at this point, and I never liked Nishiki, but now I find him to be a far more complex character than he ever was before, with the help of these flashbacks. But enough about Nishiki. He's not the star of the game. Kiryu is. Kiryu gets out of jail and meets a young girl, Haruka. Haruka is related to Yumi, and Kiryu desperately wants to find her. Meanwhile, the Dojima family is tearing itself apart. 10 billion yen is missing from the coffers, and Nishiki uses this as a pretext for a power grab. Kiryu is exiled from the Dojima clan, and he's linked to the continuing misfortunes of the clan. This is simply the table setting for what will evolve into an amazing story. I played the original Yakuza back in 2011 on the PS2, and Yakuza 0 plus Yakuza Kiwami have given a new perspective on the series and its most interesting antagonist, Nishiki. The flashbacks coupled with Yakuza 0 show how much thought has gone into the characters of Yakuza. Yakuza 0 and Kiwami aren't simply cash-ins while we wait for the series finale, they're enriching the lore far beyond the original scope of the series. This is all due to the vision of Toshihiro Nagoshi, the director of all the Yakuza games. I admire this man's determination to continuously re-examine his work and improve it without losing sight of what made its original concept so distinct. A special appreciation needs to be given to the writing and localization. The writing keeps you entertained and engaged, much more like a soap opera than a video game. Sega also did an excellent job keeping the localization at that happy medium of not anglicizing Japanese culture without alienating Western audiences. To clarify, Yakuza Kiwami doesn't try to create a false equivalency between Japanese and Western cultures. This is the major sin of the original game, and it hampered some of the game's enjoyment significantly. Let's use this scene as an example. How would you explain the scene in a Western context? It's best just to leave it and move on. The gameplay of Yakuza Kiwami is similar to the stellar gameplay of Yakuza 0. Kiryu has 4 styles: Rush, Brawler, Beast, and Dragon. Rush does less damage, but you're more reactive. Brawler is a style we all know and love from the classic Yakuza games. Beast is slow, but has pummeling damage, and Dragon is an unlockable style that is very powerful. You unlock the style by battling Majima. The developers called this Majima Everywhere. Based on certain criteria, Majima will pop up and challenge you to a fight. If you beat him, you can unlock more moves for Dragon style. I like this idea's implementation. You never know when you'll turn around and see Majima in a costume ready to fight. The scenarios are funny, and I want to unlock all of Majima's events, in part just to see what weird new things Majima will be up to.
そこの桐生ちゃん、止まりなさい。お
There are loads of distractions in Kamurocho to occupy your time. There's an RC racing circuit, which is pretty fun. You can hit up the photo booth, which is surprisingly entertaining. However, the main draw filling your downtime in Yakuza Kiwami is going to be Mezu King. Rarely do words fail me, but this is one such instance. It's a card game that plays like rock, scissors, paper. It isn't the most interesting game, but there's something about it. I can't quite put my finger on it. Also, I love that the Beatles are clapping. Just think about that. I was disappointed that Virtua Fighter 4 wasn't playable in the arcades. It's there, but you can't play it. Yakuza Kiwami has an upgrading system for you to improve Kiryu's moves, health, and general kick-ass abilities. These are very helpful during the game, and you improve all of this through fighting. I wouldn't recommend fighting scrubs on the street though. Instead, try to complete side missions. They have much more XP to offer. There is one major issue with Yakuza Kiwami, and it's embedded in the original game. Some of the mission structures are asinine, especially at the beginning of the game. This is due to an older design philosophy that now seems very dated. For example, at the first of the game, Kiryu needs to buy a present. You go back and forth for a solid 20 minutes or so, being foiled by such issues as not having enough money, borrowing money, thievery, and it's very tiresome. While there aren't many moments like this, it does show the age of Yakuza. The graphics in Yakuza Kiwami are a bit of a step down from Yakuza 0. Since this is a budget title, that's to be expected. However, a budget title from Sega still looks quite good. All of the character models have a high level of detail, the clothes hang realistically, and all the facial animations are top-notch. The subtle expressions and uncontrollable twitches as characters emote are striking. These subtle touches effectively pull you into scenes. The small spasms of a character's eyes make you forget that you're watching a digital representation of a person and help the viewer to connect with the scene. Kamurocho looks about the same. The setting is still densely packed with eye-catching neon signs. The crowds that flock to the area are as dense as ever. Yakuza Kiwami lives up to the high sonic standards we've come to expect from the other entries in the series.
堂島組長があの世で寂しいとさ。
The crunch and crack of nameless goons' faces breaking under the mighty fists of Kiryu sound good. The wails and screams of the defeated are convincing. As you run down the streets of Kamurocho, your auditory senses are just as overloaded as your visual senses. Pachinko machines clink and clank. Men on the street try to convince you to come into their stores. Random goons yell as you pass, looking for fights. The music in Yakuza Kiwami is mercifully improved over the original. The original soundtrack is stuck in the early aughts. It bounces back and forth between nu metal and Eurobeat. It isn't horrible, but it's aggressively generic. The new soundtrack is much more listenable. There isn't much that's super interesting to me, but it's enjoyable and fitting to the experience. The voice acting in Yakuza Kiwami is stellar.
俺だ。
真実です。レイナさんから兄貴に伝えてくれって。今さっき堂島組長がユミさんさらっていったんです。
ユミか。なんで組長に。
詳しくはわかりません。でも錦のおじけもそれ聞いて組長のところに。
錦が。で、場所は。
劇場の横のビルの組長の事務所です。
わかった。すぐに行く。
I can't think of any other game series that has this much excellent acting so consistently. The sheer dedication to the story by the actors involved is a tribute to the medium of voice acting. When you hit the high crescendos of the story, the voice actors make you feel the emotional gravity of the situation. Yakuza Kiwami is an excellent game for $30. It took me 15 and a half hours to beat the game, and I only got a 20% completion rate. If you want that platinum, you're looking at 80 hours. The difficulty on normal is manageable. Yakuza Kiwami will challenge your thumb stamina and your understanding of when to use what fighting style. You can change the difficulty anytime though. While on the topic of difficulty, I have one major gripe with Yakuza Kiwami. Bosses can heal themselves and this stinks. They already have so much health, it takes a long time to beat them. It also feels like they break the rules of the game. There are a lot of issues with the lagless moves bosses perform. Sometimes you feel like they have no opening to exploit. They just kind of dodge forever, then block if you attack, and their attack strings are next to impossible to punish. This in no way should hinder your enjoyment of the game, but I hope in the future the bosses will get a little less cheap. I'm glad that Sega is putting some weight behind the Yakuza franchise, and I'm looking forward to the final chapter in Kiryu's story in Yakuza 6, The Song of Life. It's hard to believe that Kiryu's epic odyssey all started with this story back in 2006. The tale of Kiryu's chance meeting with Haruka, the end of his friendship with Nishiki, and the beginning of his rivalry and eventual friendship with Majima. I count myself lucky to have played the Yakuza games, and I'm so glad that we're getting a re-envisioning of the original games that enrich the already opulent tapestry of the storytelling. Yakuza has become one of the most important and underrated series in gaming. Its sweeping narrative is finally coming to a close, and now it's time for Yakuza's director Toshihiro Nagoshi to put the final brushstrokes on his masterpiece. This is Zach with Tanuki Games. Please remember that a like, a comment, or a subscribe means a lot to me and of course the channel. Enjoy.
Die!